So Steve,
how are you, sir?
So I met you like 18 months ago for the first time. We didn't even have a name. You were the CISO of a Fortune 12 company, one of the most complex environments that I've ever seen in the world. Now you're, I wake him up and you're an investor as an inside partner. What happened?
Yeah, so look, I've been working with founders for about just as long as I've been a CISO, and I've just always gravitated towards the people aspect and the founders, and more the people than the idea. I think great people will come up with great ideas. So I've always been attracted to the startup world and working with the founders and helping them build great companies. And it was actually a pretty smooth transition to be able to go from someplace like a Home Depot to an Insight and really focus on the talent. So let me ask you, before I even got to Insight was an investor, Sequoia behind you, other great companies. How'd you pick the folks to invest in you?
Yeah, so actually, I'm lucky to have like both Sequoia, Index, Insight, great investors. I think that today in the market that we're having, money is no longer a factor. It's not like, hey, who's giving you the best valuation. I think for me, as a founder, it's about two things that I saw. It's one, looking at Insight for me as value creation. I look at the ability of Insight. I'll give you one of the CEOs that that I talked before, like validating, how cool is Insight. Basically told me, I'm not sure you're even familiar with the number. He told me 60% of his revenues in the last 12 months were generated by Insight, which is crazy. This is a very successful company, like tens of millions of dollars that basically generated by Insight. So that's kind of the value creation that intrigued me a lot. And it's not all about that. It's about the ability for working with the VCs that helps you find the product market fit. And Insight joined fairly early at the Wiz days. That still product market fit was a question. So that was one of the things. And again, working with the ex-CISO of Home Depot, for example, this is exactly that value that founders are looking. But on the personal side, I'll tell you that one of the things that, I have like the 2 a.m. question, am I feeling right, like about the partner? For me, it's more about the partner that I'm like, can I call 2 a.m., ask the dumbest question and still feel comfortable? That's kind of the thing that I'm looking for, this comfortable with actually the partner, because again, it's not about the money. It's more about, hey, this is the partner and a friend in a way that you're going to work for many years from now on, that's going to be there with your success and also on the downtime. So that's kind of the question that I'm also looking. So it's not always about the VC and the firm. It's also picking the right partner. So I'm going to flip it to you. So you're like in a great position, like a very unique, the one person in the world that I can say that both became a customer of Wiz and also an investor in Wiz. So I see why.
Yeah, I think, for those of you who've sort of been in either side of the business, my philosophy, as a CISO, and it's not going to be any different here as a venture capitalist, is I think actually we put too much focus on the technology side first. To me, we probably don't say this enough, or maybe you hear it too much. It's just whether or not you mean it, but it is, I fall in love with people, not technology. And you fall in love with founders and you look at them and go, wow, like you're an amazing person. You're going to be an incredible leader. You're going to be able to recruit great people with you. You're going to be able to problem solve. You look at founders and go, what challenges have you been through in the past few years? Because you build off of those challenges and it creates a stronger person. To me, it was much more about the people aspect, because that has to come first. If that's not good, the rest of what you tell me about the tech and how you pitch something and the value prop, I'm not really that turned on to in a way. I want to fall in love with you as a person and as a team and a dynamic, and then it's much easier for me to grasp the technology that you want to build. And that was like that for me as a CISO. Like I've turned to people and been like, I'll never let you in my office. Like I just don't have that connection with you. I don't feel it. And then there were others who got in and was like, I'm going to not only buy your technology, but I'm so passionate about you that I'm going to help you build it. And there is a difference between buying something or investing your heart and mind and helping them build it and wanting them to be successful. It's just, you know, how I've always been able to sort of work with folks. So those of you who have read the news, Wiz has raised small amount of money over the last year. When you talk to, you know, other founders and you look out into the audience, raising that money, what do you do with it? What's the first thing that comes to mind? What's sort of the strategic side of, hey, this is where we want to spend this?
So again, we're in a market that we need to push like the money that we raise down. It's harder for us to raise lower amounts than higher amounts. So that's kind of the market. And we did raise $600 million in the since inception in a way, and 250 only in the last round, last week in a way. I'm looking at it in two ways in a way. So the market opportunity for us is huge. It's almost unlimited. And it's all about scaling and talking about talent. And you talk a lot about talent, and I truly think that's the most important thing. So basically, we're recruiting in all fronts, you know, R&D in Israel, that's our focus, but go to market mainly in the US. But the money enable us to go and to grow to other geographies, for example, and, you know, kind of do things in parallel that you couldn't do before. So that's one thing. But it's also interesting that, you know, for us, it's also inorganic growth is an opportunity now, like $600 million, the opportunity to look into other startups that complements us, to find amazing team that we can work with. I think that's kind of, you know, we're 18 months old and already starting to think about it. Again, I'm afraid of that, but definitely that's a great way to continue our exceptional growth. So I'm looking for that.
Yeah, we're always looking, by the way, just on like something that's interesting about Wiz and other companies that we're super attracted to is those who have a vision of building a platform. And it can be organic or inorganic through M&A. Especially in cyber, and we're all here, you know, this conference related around cyber, it's super important to look at the eyes of a CISO and how we see things at Home Depot, we had 70 cybersecurity technologies. Like, think of how hard that is to manage all of those. So you're looking at two things. How do I consolidate them and build platforms, not individual solutions? Or how am I looking at companies like Wiz and others that can give me an aggregate view of those things and what my environment looks like more on the visibility? So I love the comment around the sort of the inorganic growth. Yep. There's a lot of companies out there that are amazing companies with great founders, but are just a little bit more of a niche, feature-based thing.
Yeah. So last question. So what are the areas you're looking like in the future to invest?
Yeah, so area number one, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I'm looking at people I love, right? Like, I want to find amazing people. The ideas are infinite, and they're always going to change. The market's going to change. The attacks, the threats, all that stuff is going to morph. I want amazing people. So people have asked me, like, how did you get hired at Insight? And this is nothing personal to me, but like Jeff, the founder, just looks for amazing people, and he brings them in and he trusts that you're going to figure it out. So number one, hands down, still the people aspect. I don't believe there is a talent shortage. You'll hear that a lot. I think that takes away from all of the amazing talented people that are there. There may be a training shortage, but there isn't a talent shortage. We have to find those people. The tech side of it, I'm looking for platforms, and I please hold on to this if you hold on to anything. I'm looking for platforms that enable businesses. So from a data perspective, I think we still have a lot of things that we have to fix around the data side, data access, data provisioning. The access side of it, those two combined, I don't believe you can have data protection without proper identity management. Those are probably the two biggest spaces that I think are not new. Everyone will go, wow, that's pretty basic. It's a basic fundamental problem. It still exists the same way it did 10 years ago. And to me, that's ripe for disruption to go in, just like CrowdStrike disrupted McAfee and Symantec. I think identity and data combined, a platform, can be pretty disruptive down the road.
Amazing. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, sir.